Hello, my cookies. Welcome to Russell Cooks. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I have some quick braised lamb shoulder chops. I'm going to make it nice and saucy, a little red wine, a little tomato. We're also going to make a side of some jeweled couscous, and that's just couscous with a couple veggies and maybe dried fruit and whatnot in it, making it extra tasty, complete meal, hopefully weeknight friendly. We got to get going, all right? Can't dilly-dally. So first things first, let's gather our ingredients. You're going to need probably about 6 lamb shoulder chops. They're maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. Some chicken broth. Get some cilantro. I also have some parsley. Either will do. Rosemary. Some peeled tomatoes in a can. Garlic. I have some Kalamata olives, pitted, an onion, ground coriander, some ground cumin. I'm also going to be using some Aleppo pepper. This is all optional. You can adjust the spice the way you see fit. All right, I am going to need some regular couscous. This is not pearl couscous. This is just regular couscous. I got some sultanas, also known as some golden raisins. I have a single carrot. I have some feta. I also have, and we'll need some olive oil. And last but not least, we'll need some red wine. Not an entire bottle, but you can always drink it while you eat it. Now that we gathered our ingredients, let's get cooking. First things first, we got to get this lamb going, and that's what we're going to do. So this is a lamb shoulder chop. It's got a lot of connective tissue in here. They shouldn't be too thick, relatively thin. It's got bone going throughout. They're not great just to sear up and eat, so we're going to be braising it. The bone in there is going to give it a little bit of extra flavor, and hopefully we make it nice and tender. And there's not a ton of meat on here, so even though I'm doing 6 of them, that might only serve 4 people. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of oil in here, maybe 3 tablespoons. I'm just going to heat it over high heat. I'm going to sear these up. My oil's about hot. I'm going to get the lamb in there. I'm going to sear it up maybe 3 to 5 minutes per side. It's okay. We're not going for medium rare here. If you want to do this in a skillet, you can. I like using the Dutch oven. Now, while that lamb sears, I'm going to cut up. I got a small-ish onion. It's a regular dice here, kind of between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. I'm going to mince up the garlic now, and then I'll flip my lamb. Let's take a look at this lamb. Let's give it a flip. Yeah, we got a little bit of good brown in here. Now you see how this one's curled right there? That can happen. When one part starts to cook, it shrinks up a little bit more. You can, kind of like a chop, just give it a little snip. It's pretty standard you do that for pork chops. A few more minutes on this side, we want some good browning. All right, so we got our garlic, we got our onions, we got rosemary here. I'm just gonna throw in sprigs. I'll put in maybe about a teaspoon of each coriander and cumin. All right, we have seared up our lamb here. I'm just going to take it out, put it on this plate. Drop the heat down, medium low. Just going to add our onions. And if you've dropped your heat down, you're going to just saute these 5 to 7 minutes. Medium low, you want to kind of scrape up that fond, but it's going to take a little bit of these onions to release a little bit of their moisture first. So be patient. Nice stir. No burning. Let's get our tomatoes going. I have a 28-ounce can of the whole peeled tomatoes here. I'm just chopping them up. I'm going to use all the tomatoes in the can, but I'm not necessarily going to use the juice. It's okay if you get some in there, but I'm not going to use all of it. When watching this, I got to give a stir. Look at this. We're scraping up all those tasty brown bits. Perfect. I'm going to be adding my garlic, my cumin, and my coriander right now. I'm just going to cook that and all that delicious lamb fat. Now you want it to kind of bloom. It's going to take about 30 to 60 seconds here. Perfect. Bringing the heat up a little bit to about medium high, depending on your stove. Now it's time for the wine. We're going to do our final deglaze right here. About 1/3 a cup, 1/3 to 1/2 a cup if you're feeling fancy. We're going to get any last remnants. We've kind of stopped the cooking of these onions. All that little bit of fond that was left. We're just going to cook this wine down until it's almost gone. Now we're cooking. Let's get our tomatoes in there. Let's add our 2 sprigs. Drop the heat a little bit. Let's do 1/4 to 1/3 cup, some pitted Kalamata olives. I'm just going to cut them up. I'm going to throw these in. Let's get our lamb in, nestle it nice here. This beautiful braising liquid here. And and any remaining juices, whew, go right in there. All right, I'm gonna bring it up to a simmer, which it's going right now. I'm gonna cover it, drop the heat to low, and I'm gonna cook it until it's tender. It's gonna be about 20 to 30 minutes. And of course, I'm going to flip, stir, rotate, all that jazz about halfway through cooking. Next up, we got to get our couscous going. It is easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, just depends on how many people you are serving. I'm probably going to do about 2 cups of couscous. And this couscous is a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to do 2 cups of chicken stock. Now, the chicken stock is going to be doing the heavy lifting here. I'm not going to be doing onions and garlic and all that jazz. That's what the chicken stock's for. So it's going to give me a lot of background flavor. You can use vegan chicken stock. You can use vegetable stock. You can use water. I'd recommend against it. But I'm going to get this in. And you don't stir the couscous in until it's boiling. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple different add-ins and then add the couscous, a couple more add-ins, and then you let it sit 5 minutes. You're done. So I'm going to do a little Aleppo pepper here. Heavy pinch, maybe a teaspoon. This is also the time I'm going to be using my grater and I'm going to grate this carrot. You can do more. I don't really like a ton of carrot. I think it adds too much sweetness. So I'm only going to be doing 1. There we go. I'm going to get it on the stove, high heat. I want it to come up to a boil pretty quickly. While that's heating up, let's prep our other mix-ins here. We're going to get some sultanas. These are just green grapes turned into raisins. I'd say maybe a 1/4 cup. 2 cups of couscous here. I got some feta here. I'm just going to cut it up. You can crumble it. I'm going to do a little cilantro. Why not? A little garnish here. You can absolutely use parsley here. That is fine too. Let's check on this lamb. Let's give it a flip if we need to. Oh, I can smell that rosemary. All right, we're gonna keep braising that lowest heat possible. Our liquid is boiling over here. We're gonna add the couscous and the raisins at the same time. Turn your heat off. Cover it, let it sit 5 minutes. Let's turn to this jeweled couscous here for a second. Here we go. Hello, look at that. The couscous absorbed all the liquid and went and got nice and plump and fat, and the raisins did a little bit too. Fantastic. Now you can use whatever you want to fluff it up. Look at how fluffy and steamy that is. We're gonna get this feta in here. The warmth will kind of soften it. It's not gonna melt, it's feta. I'll add all of it, why not? And I'm gonna put a good amount of this cilantro, probably 2/3, 3/4 of it. Now I'm just going to give it a taste for salt. I might need to add a little bit of salt. Remember, the feta is going to have salt in it. The stock I use is going to have salt in it. I didn't add any of my own. I'm going to add maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, maybe a 1/2 teaspoon. Let's go back over to the stove here. Our lamb has just finished up. It's nice and tender. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. I'm going to try and reduce the sauce a little bit, thicken it up that way. I don't want to add any flour or cornstarch to thicken it up. Worst case scenario, you can always mash a little bit of the stuff or use an immersion blender to puree up some of the tomatoes, and that will help thicken my sauce naturally. All right, let's remove any sprigs of rosemary. Let's reduce the sauce down here. Remember, after you reduce it, give it a taste for salt. Season it to taste after you reduce it. Because if you season it to taste now and then reduce it, it's going to be too salty. Now I'm going to spend about 5 minutes. I'm going to reduce this down. We got high heat going. It's really blasting away here. My sauce has reduced. It's been about 5 minutes. It's pretty nappe. Remember, as it cools, it'll tighten a little bit too. I'm just going to put a little sauce. Oh, yes. I'm going to put a little extra, have it drip down onto the couscous here. So we're going to put a little bit of cilantro. My favorite part. Now you get to dig in. Oh, yes. It's actually tender. Look at this beautiful sauce. Give it a taste. The evolution of that flavor is amazing. Start off with the vegetables, you get some of that tomato, and then boom, the lamb just kind of flies its way in. You got this big, bold flavored lamb. And then you get back to some of these herbs like the cilantro, and then the Kalamata olive hits, brings a little bit of brininess, and everything just kind of pops with that acidity. So good. Let's get a little couscous with this sauce. This sauce is just, it's like a roller coaster. This takes you around. And the couscous and the feta, everything's perfect. The rosemary is right there. It's not overabundant. All right, enough of this. I know you guys don't want to see me just eat this whole thing. So that was quick braised lamb shoulder chops with jeweled couscous. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you like what you saw. Don't forget, you can follow me on YouTube and Twitch. I'm also on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope to see you next time. Take care.